can we please talk about UFC Vegas 23? Took place at the weekend. Obviously, Marvin Vettori and Kevin Holland in the main event. Of this week, this is the midweek show, so it's going to be just my bets from last week, which weren't all terrible. I'll get into that in a moment. But a quick roundup of the news. There's been quite a lot going on in the world of MMA, but also in boxing and possible crossovers and and all that kind of bollocks. And so we're going to go through that over the next kind of 15 minutes or so. And let's start off with my picks from last week. So we're going to go through them all one by one, but I'm going to save the best one for last. It's not necessarily in chronological order. So Selecki took on Jim Miller. Now, this one, my prediction, as you can see up there, it was Selecki by decision. And that was an excellent pick because it was never going any other way, right? And it doesn't break my heart any less to see Jim Miller kind of going out there and he hasn't looked that competitive in a little while now. I don't know where it goes from here, because Jim Miller is one of my old school favourites. He did walk out and broke the record for the most UFC fights in history. So I don't know. It wasn't like he was completely blown out of the water, but he never looked like he was particularly in the fight either, which is a real shame. But let's focus on the winners. So Selecki, what's next for him? I have my eye on Mr. John Makdessi. John Makdessi, I think he fought before here on the prelims. It might have been, I think it was before, against that gigantic-looking kickboxer, Baja Mendes, right? And yeah, no wonder Baja Mendes looks gigantic. He missed weight, didn't he? Well, no wonder he missed weight. He looked gigantic. The two correlate. The two go hand in hand. But I mean, he's a big boy. I looked at him. I was like, what? How the fuck is he getting down to lightweight? That is crazy. I don't think he'll get down to lightweight for much longer. I mean, but the thing is, it's like John Makdessi still pieced him up. Like, Makdessi looked great, man. Look, Makdessi looked really, really good. He was winning a jab war with somebody that had like a 5-inch reach advantage on him. It was crazy. Good for Makdessi, but also good for Selecki. Good win there. Julian Marquez, the Cuban Missile Crisis. I had him winning by decision in this one because I was betting on Alvy's toughness, which was a mistake in hindsight. Because I got the result, well, the winner right, but not quite the method. Now, I was able to watch this one live. It was really fun, actually. I forgot how much fun watching the fights live actually is. And yeah, so I was able to watch live, and they were showing on the little video reels as they were like making their walk, and literally every single one of them they showed was Marquez getting a choke, getting a submission. And the submission was like 9-1, so I was like, well, I'll have a quid on that. Do you know what I mean? That's crazy odds. And yeah, and that came in. I was gutted for Alvy because I do like Alvy, and I thought he would smile his way to a decision loss, but I was wrong. He grimaced and he smiled. I mean, you could call it a smile. He was kind of smiling, but he was getting choked out. And boy, did he get choked unconscious. That was a horrible choke as well. You want to see an example of a really horrible choke, then go back and watch that fight, because he kind of just had like the bar of it. I think it's technically it's known as a bar choke because the forearm goes across the windpipe, because he didn't have the hooks in or anything. He just had him on the floor. He basically had him almost knocked out and decided to just finish him with a submission. And it was good. Yeah, good for Marquez. He's calling out everybody from Kansas, calling out Travis Kelce for some reason. They're American football players, so I mean, I would imagine you'd probably beat them in a fight. I mean, you're a mixed martial artist, so I mean, that goes without saying, doesn't it? But either way, he's fun to watch in the post-fight interviews, I will say that, because you never quite know what he's going to come out with. Is he going to start flirting with Miley Cyrus? Is he going to start calling out American football players? Who knows, right? Do you know what I mean? He's a wild card, just like the Cuban Missile Crisis. I guess that's where he gets his nickname. So what's next for Marquez? I think Ian Heinisch would make sense for him, because look, neither man are in the top 10. They both want to get into the top 10. I think Heinisch is floating just around outside the top 10. I think that's a decent fight. I think that should be a fun matchup, because both of them are kind of, they have like similar-ish styles. That'd be good. So yeah, Ian Heinisch, I think that's the next fight. That makes sense for Marquez. Next for Alvy, Bellator most likely. Let's be realistic. He hasn't won in a hot minute. Although he is exciting every time he fights, so that may buy him an extra fight. Who knows? Depends how many fights are left on his contract. But if there aren't many, I don't see him continuing in the UFC for much longer. As much as I love Sam Alvey, I'm a huge fan, but eventually you do have to win one if you're going to stay in the best mixed martial arts organization on the planet. I'm sorry, but you just do. But we'll see what happens there. Arnold Allen, the Brit, taking on Yusuf, and he was, I had him down to win by either submission or decision, and I was spot on once again, because it was a very, very good performance, very strong performance, because Yusuf is no slouch. He's really, really good. It was definitely the toughest test for both these guys, and to be fair, Arnold Allen passed with flying colours. He's on like an 8-fight win streak now. I think he's on like one of the longest win streaks in like the lightweight division. Surely. No, featherweight division, sorry. Is it lightweight or featherweight? Sorry, I probably should have checked that. But, he just looked very, very competent. And, yeah, that's what... Oh, yeah, so, yeah, it is at featherweight. Sorry, just had to quickly double-check that. Featherweight. So, I mean, you've got to start throwing him some top guys, like, soon, haven't you? The fight that I think makes sense next for Arnold Allen is Josh Emmett. Josh Emmett, he hasn't had a fight in a little while. He hasn't got one booked, to my knowledge. He's on a very respectable win streak himself. His last 3 wins, in the form of Michael Johnson, Bektik, and you've got Shane Burgos in there as well. They're all really good top-level guys. And, Emmett is a top-level guy himself. He presents some interesting challenges, especially in the wrestling. We can see if Arnold Allen kind of can keep it standing with somebody who's as good at wrestling as Josh Emmett. I think that is the fight to make. UFC, make it happen. Marvin Vettori versus Kevin Holland was... Well, it was always going to be an uphill battle for Holland, and I had Vettori by decision or submission. I did have the kind of the side bet on with the double chance, because Vettori does have some decent chokes, but realistically, this was always going to a decision. And I just say, he's seen what Derek Brunson did to him. Vettori has some pretty decent offensive wrestling, and better than decent, he set the record for most takedowns in a middleweight fight, so fair play to him. Marvin Vettori, it was just never in doubt. Do you know what I mean? So that one was always worth adding to the bet slip. And so what's next for Marvin Vettori? He's called out Israel Adesanya. If I'm honest, it's hard to argue against that rematch at this point. I mean, is Kevin Holland a high-ranked guy? No, not really, but he was supposed to fight Darren Till. It's not his fault that Till got injured. You can't really punish him for that. He beat the man that he put in front of him, and he beat him very convincingly, right? Now, the problem, though, obviously, the only other guy that's got any claim to a middleweight title fight right now is Bobby Knuckles, and he is going to be fighting Kelvin Gastelum this weekend. So that, and whether if Robert Whittaker passes that test on Saturday, then maybe it's the most recent, and if he does it spectacularly as well, that's a factor, because Marvin Vettori, his performance was very good, if not a little safe. It was a safe performance. But, hey, look, your objective is to win. I have no problem with that. It's not Marvin Vettori's fault. That is on Kevin Holland for not knowing how to stop a takedown. Do you know what I mean? That is not Marvin Vettori's fault. Marvin Vettori and any fighter should be taking the easiest route to victory at all times. You should be trying to minimise the damage and get that win. Because unless you're Jose Aldo, you're not getting a title fight off of a loss. So, do you know what I mean? You can't blame Marvin Vettori for any of that. And so I think it's hard to argue against, because the first fight with Adesanya was competitive, right? And it was a 3-rounder. And you would have to say that Marvin Vettori's best round by far was round number 3, where he started getting the takedowns and, kept Adesanya down. Now, I do think he lost that first fight. People are saying, there's an argument to say he won. I don't think so. I think that Adesanya kind of relatively comfortably won the first 2 rounds. That might have been the commentary, though, because for some reason Adesanya has such a weird effect on the commentators. They just start, God, they love feints, don't they? You can't score feints, though. Feints are great to set things up, but if you don't set anything up, if you're doing feints and then you get hit in the face, that's useless, isn't it? So, what's next for Vettori? I would say, hopefully, Israel Adesanya. I think he actually does deserve it, and I wouldn't hate seeing that rematch, because I'd quite like to see what would happen in rounds 4 and 5, because Vettori clearly won round 3 in their first matchup. Now, would he be able to then continue from that round and dominate those last 3 rounds and then get the win overall or win the title? That remains to be seen. But I'd like to see it. Robert Whittaker got knocked out by Adesanya. Yeah, he deserves another shot, and we'll see what he does to Kelvin Gastelum. But it's between those two, so we will see. What's next for Kevin Holland? AKA, hopefully. I'm hoping he goes to somewhere that can kind of, I don't know, give him some really good wrestling advice. So anyway, my pick of the week last week. Oh, it was a good one as well. Take a quick look at this. My pick of the week is Rodriguez to finish Perry. I think that Perry just comes out looking sloppy, and that plays right into his hands. I think that Rodriguez either gets the submission or the knockout, and that is 2.75. So that is my pick of the week. Watch that one go sailing to a decision now. Yep, I even predicted how it was going to go wrong. Because never bet against Mike Perry's chin is the lesson in that one. Because I was right. Literally, his style played right into Rodriguez's hands, and Rodriguez teed off on him. I could not believe that Mike Perry was still standing after some of those shots. It was ridiculous. I don't know where Mike Perry goes from here either. It's a bit of a sad state of affairs. I think he released a statement like with his face all beaten up, just saying, "I don't get it. I was great once." I was like, great is a stretch, but you were really good at one point. You were the next big thing. And now it's tough to justify another fight in the UFC for you. But like with Sam Alvey, he is exciting. So that may buy him another fight. Maybe buys him an opportunity to get back in the win column. Who knows? But Rodriguez looked really good. I mean, top 10 opponent for him next, surely. I think they're pretty much all booked up from what I was looking at, but I'm sure they'll be able to find him an opponent. So 3 out of 5 on those bets, not bad to be fair. So here is the news. So the news, we've got loads of things in here actually. Francis Ngannou is apparently open he said he's open to fighting Tyson Fury in a boxing match. It's like, yeah, well that's great, but I mean it would be bad for Francis because let's face it, right? He has ridiculous power, but he's not even the best boxer in the UFC. That's Max Holloway. Everyone knows that, But he's, in all seriousness, he's not even the best boxer in the UFC. So, his boxing is decent for MMA, but take him out of an MMA fight and put him in a boxing match with Tyson Fury, and it's not even competitive. It's not a competitive fight. That's great, and I don't think his cardio would hold up over a 12-round fight. I think this is just silliness, to be fair, because the thing is if he's not worried about the takedowns, maybe his cardio lasts longer, but it's a bit ridiculous to start talking about how, because he said his dream was still boxing, he still intends to pursue that, but I mean, you're in your mid-30s now, Francis, and you have a UFC heavyweight title to defend, so I'm wondering, can you dedicate the time that's required to get your boxing technically proficient enough to compete with the guys that are the top in boxing right now? I don't think that there is time. Maybe I'm wrong, but I mean, he has got natural attributes. He's got a one-punch chance, do you know what I mean? But that's all he's got. Against Tyson Fury, with the greatest respect, I really like Francis Ngannou. I know it doesn't sound like it whenever I talk about him. I'm usually saying something negative, but yeah, so Tyson Fury then responded. I'll put the tweet up here. So after he's done with Anthony Joshua, I'll roast him as well. To be fair, in their whole Twitter exchanges, there's only one person who's not saying anything that's not factually correct, and that's Francis Ngannou. Because with respect, Tyson Fury would roast Francis Ngannou in a boxing match. There's one outcome. There's one outcome and one outcome only, and that is Tyson Fury winning. One thing I would think was interesting was I heard that Dillian Whyte, because whilst he's an excellent boxer, he was a former kickboxer as well. He's open to fighting Francis Ngannou, doing one fight in boxing and one fight in MMA. Now that's the kind of thing that I can get behind because that makes it more of a competition, right? Because look, Francis Ngannou versus Tyson Fury is not a competition. That's a cash grab. 100%, because it's not competitive. There is no way that fight is even competitive, right? Whereas Dillian Whyte, he's a top level boxer. I don't think that in a boxing match Francis Ngannou gets near him. But then, he's said he's open to doing it in a cage as well, which is where Francis has the humongous advantage. And look, you never know. If one person can clean sweep the other, that's an interesting thing to me. I'll keep an eye on that one. Do I think it's got any chance of actually happening? No, but it's a lovely fantasy, isn't it? Just like Francis Ngannou being competitive with Tyson Fury. So Ngannou, yeah, he responded to Tyson Fury. I'll put it up here. It's a very lame tweet. It's like, basically it's a picture of Fury after he had his boxing match. He's got a cut over his eye, and it's just like, yeah, if this guy did this to you, imagine what I would do. With respect, Francis, like what you would do is just get pieced up. You would get absolutely picked apart. At the end of the day, you would kill Tyson Fury in MMA, but you're not challenging him to that. You're challenging him like Tyson Fury to a boxing match, and he is the best. The difference between the skill levels, the boxing skill of the high level, like professional boxers, and the guys who are good enough at boxing to be in MMA is leagues. It's leaps and bounds. It really is. Tyson Fury would... I don't know, it just wouldn't even be a hard fight for him. He wasn't saying anything incorrect when he said that it was easy work. I don't think he was even necessarily being disrespectful. In a boxing match, Francis Ngannou is easy work for Tyson Fury. And that is a fact. It's not even being disrespectful to Francis. Francis, you are the best MMA fighter at heavyweight right now. That is indisputable because you've got the belt, and that means something, right? But it doesn't mean that you've got good enough boxing to hang with Tyson Fury in a boxing match. I just don't see it. So yeah, no, that's it. So that's all like that boxing crossover. There is actually another one that I'll get to in a moment. But first off, speaking of Francis Ngannou, obviously they're looking for like John Jones has been talking about, having like 10 million personal fight. Now Jones's coach has come out and started talking about 50 million. Okay, look, if you don't want to take the fight and you want to price yourself out, just come out with it. 50 million, that's fucking ridiculous. For a fight that's not going to break 1 million pay-per-view buys. Like, it will not. Neither Jones or Francis Ngannou has a pay-per-view following that indicates that they would break 1 million pay-per-view buys. So they are never paying John Jones 50 million for that fight. It's not going to happen. People, again, alluding to, last week I mentioned, this fight is not as big as people think it is. It's not. Some people are comparing it to fucking Rumble in the Jungle, for fuck's sake. Do you know what the key difference there is? Rumble in the Jungle was 1964. How many fucking channels did they have then? None. Do you know? There's a reason why Elvis was the biggest global megastar, because there were only a couple of channels and he was on one of them all the time. Right? That life was very different back then. Being famous was very different back then. An event was very different back then. It's not the same thing. Right, Francis versus Jones 2, to call that the next Rumble in the Jungle is fucking stupid. And I'm tired of seeing it. It is. It's just ridiculous. They're two completely different things. One was a worldwide mega event. One is a fight that all mixed martial arts fans want to see. But outside of that, it's probably not going to reach that many people. That's, unfortunately, it's a fact. Do I want to see the fight? Yes, but I am balls deep into MMA. So, of course, I want to see it. But in order to get those kind of that worldwide event kind of pay-per-view numbers that they're talking about, you need to appeal to the casual fan. Casual fans make pay-per-views. It's true. The UFC is built on casual fans, and yet it's thrown around as an insult these days. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. But, so speaking of big fights, this is a bigger fight. McGregor versus Dustin, and they finally started selling it, and I am fucking ecstatic, because for 1 minute the fight was off, because basically Dustin Poirier kind of aired the dirty laundry out a bit. He kind of he tweeted out to Conor, still not had your donation, by the way, and then Conor McGregor comes back saying it's a donation, not a debt. I don't know why he sounds so bugged up every time I do that stupid impression, but I don't know, it makes me laugh. But yeah, I mean, the thing is Dustin could have done that privately, to be fair. And if you look at this tweet, he did actually come out and say that, my mistake there was airing it out publicly. I shouldn't have done that, and that's my bad, because Dustin wants to be the good guy, but hopefully he's done enough to draw the bad guy out, McGregor, because McGregor hasn't responded to this yet, and I think McGregor's going to come back hot. They've now, even though McGregor, he came out and he said, that's it, fine, fight off, find yourself good luck on your own contract, kid. Yeah, it's because McGregor, they could put him against a fucking literally a literal garbage can, and he would still sell 1 million pay-per-views. So yeah, so he started talking about how the fight was off, but it's 100% on now. McGregor has signed to fight Poirier. They're both signed up. And yeah, it's going to be a huge fight because I think McGregor is going to come out nasty again. And that's what this fight needs. Sell the fucking fight. Better than that love fest where it's like, oh no, your hot sauce is so great. Oh, I've got a bottle of proper 12 for you. Bollocks. Joey, get into each other's faces and throw around some insults because that is what I want to see. I'm glad that it's now on the cards. And yeah, so the other boxing match, Eddie Alvarez, he's open to boxing Oscar De La Hoya because Oscar De La Hoya's come out of retirement. And it's like, yeah, in fairness, Eddie, look, that doesn't help you because you can't hit in the back of the head in boxing either, all right? So that's a little joke for people that know he got disqualified from his last ONE FC fight for punching his opponent in the back of the head. And also, Joey, this could be a more competitive fight than you think because obviously it might, obviously, Oscar De La Hoya was an awesome boxer, but his last fight was 13 years ago, right? He's also done a lot of cocaine since then, and he's now 48, right? So given that, I think that actually starts to make up for some of the disparity in boxing skill because Alvarez, he's never once been as skilled boxer as Oscar De La Hoya. Let's not get that twisted, but like all that cocaine and age there's a graph, do you know what I mean? And it all starts to come together. And then it's around this point here that Eddie Alvarez stands a chance. So we'll keep an eye on that. Good for him. It'll be a big money fight. Speaking of fights, we've got Jan Blachowicz versus Teixeira. That one is now in the books. It's going to be UFC 266 on September 4th. And rightly so. I like both of those guys. That's going to be a really good scrap. Lots of power on display. Light heavyweight strap on the line, and yeah, looking forward to it. Looking forward to just seeing the light heavyweight champion taking on the rightful #1 contender at that weight class. You got to have one of those fights every once in a while, right? It can't all be double title, moving up a weight class super fights because otherwise, what the fuck do you do with the rest of those divisions? So I'm glad that they've got that one in the books. Good for Teixeira because he fucking deserves that. Troll of the week. So we've got obviously a couple of them. They're based around the whole the donation or not donation to Dustin Poirier's charity. So you've got because obviously Khabib's catchphrase was "send me location." So now they've got a picture of Dustin Poirier with his hood up like he's Khabib, and it says "send me donation." Simple but effective. Lovely stuff. Excellent. It did, yeah, made me giggle when I saw that. And then you've got this one, Conor donates to absolutely nobody. Brilliant, because obviously there was that famous speech where he's like, I'd just like to take this opportunity to apologise to absolutely nobody. And yeah, so they've changed that. Obviously he will donate to absolutely nobody because he still hasn't donated to Mr. Poirier's charity, which turns him into the villain, which, as I said, I'm a big fan of. That's all the trolls of the week this week. That's all the news. Picks are going to be on Friday, so don't forget that the picks are on Friday because Friday nights are the best night for picks, right? Burt Locker Fights in 15 is exclusive to Patreon on the Friday. It goes out the next day on YouTube, but obviously it's way better to get your picks in on the Friday, and it is such a reasonable price. £1 a month for the Patreon, and you get everything included. And there are going to be, as I start, monetizing this more, I will be able to get a few more interviews, fire interviews, that kind of thing. And yeah, or if you want to just donate another way, there is the Ko-Fi as well. All of these are in the banner on my YouTube channel. So if you head to my YouTube channel, you see all the links in my banner, and there are all the links to my social media as well. So if you want to send me a troll of the week, something that you think is funny that I may have missed, or if you just want to get in touch or whatever, but even if you can't do any of that, just please like and subscribe if you enjoy the content, because it helps me out a lot and it is greatly appreciated. And if you disagree with anything that I've said, I love talking about this stuff, so drop me a line. Just drop me a line in the comments and just say, look, you're absolutely mental. Francis Ngannou could of course compete with Tyson Fury in a boxing match. I mean, you'd be deluded, but if that's what you want to tell me, go ahead. I appreciate it. But until we're placing some more bets on Friday, keep those odds long and those bets terrible.